A Harvard math problem defeated scholars for years. Even the top professor had given up. But one afternoon, a quiet 9-year-old refugee boy wandered the halls, with no ID, no title, no voice on paper, and with just a piece of chalk, he solved it. This is the story of how a child named Benjamin changed the future of mathematics and reminded the world that genius can rise from the dust, not from the top. The cold Boston wind pushed through the narrow alleys near the refugee center, biting through layers of worn fabric. A small boy, coat 2 sizes too large, tightened it around his thin frame. His name was Benjamin. Though no official paper in America said so, he was 9, and officially, no one. Benjamin had arrived alone 6 months ago, a child of war and waves, one of the thousands who'd crossed oceans not knowing where they would land. His mother, lost at sea. His father, vanished months before. Only faded memories of a quiet man teaching numbers beneath a starlit sky in Aleppo remained. At the center, Benjamin rarely spoke. His English was broken, his world smaller still. Days passed in a haze of lessons he didn't attend, toys he didn't touch. He sat in corners, drawing strange shapes on scraps of cardboard. Spirals, curves, symbols no one understood. Until one gray afternoon changed everything. Emma Clark had volunteered at the Refugee program for years. A graduate student by day and housekeeper at Harvard's Department of Mathematics by night, she'd taken a liking to the quiet boy. He reminded her of a younger brother lost to illness. Bright, silent, carrying a sadness too large for his small frame. "Benjamin," she called softly. "Want to come with me today? Just for a little trip." He looked up. Harvard. He'd heard the name whispered among adults as a place of great minds and impossible ideas. A castle of numbers. He nodded. They entered through the side gate, Emma swiping her ID. Benjamin's eyes widened. Towers of glass and stone, staircases that seemed to spiral forever, faces moving swiftly with books tucked beneath their arms. She led him to the mathematics building. It smelled of chalk dust and old wood, a strange comfort to the boy whose nights had been filled with equations whispered by a father long gone. "Stay here in the lounge. I have to clean the seminar room upstairs," Emma smiled. Benjamin nodded again, eyes already tracing patterns on the tiled floor. But curiosity, as it often does with 9-year-olds, soon pulled him from his seat. The corridor was silent. Afternoon light streamed through high windows, casting long shadows. Benjamin wandered, each step echoing faintly. Then he saw it, an open door, a blackboard taller than any man, filled edge to edge with a monstrous equation. Symbols danced before his eyes, partial derivatives, infinite sums, tensor notations that even most graduate students dared not touch. At the center, conjecture on non-linear turbulent flow, unsolved. Benjamin's heart raced. The shapes, the flow, they reminded him of something. He stepped inside. No one noticed the small figure entering a room meant for giants. Unseen, he approached the board. Fingers trembling, he traced the curves without touching them, whispering to himself. His father's voice echoed from deep memory. "Patterns, my son. Equations tell the story of the world's breath." Benjamin reached for a piece of chalk lying forgotten beneath the tray. He hesitated. Could he? Would anyone understand? A breath. A step closer. The chalk touched the board. Slowly, almost as if guided by invisible hands, Benjamin began to draw. Arcs turned into substitutions. Complex terms unfolded into visual symmetries. Lines of brute calculation gave way to an elegant, almost childlike simplicity. To anyone watching, it would have seemed a game. To Benjamin, it was music. Time dissolved. Hours later, Professor Charles Kendall, chair of mathematics, returned from an unsuccessful lecture. His colleagues had debated the problem yet again. Solutions escaped them. He sighed and pushed open the seminar room door, and froze. There on the board, amidst dense academic scrawls, new lines appeared, clean, delicate, precise. They cut through the chaos with shocking clarity. "Who did this?" Kendall whispered aloud. There was no one in sight, but at the bottom corner of the board, in small, uneven letters, a child's hand had written, B, age 9. Behind the door, heart pounding, Benjamin listened. Then he ran, feet silent on marble floors, coat billowing behind him, out into the cold. Unaware that in one fragile afternoon he had just shaken the foundations of Harvard, and soon the world. Soon. The sun had long dipped beneath the horizon when Professor Charles Kendall stood alone in the seminar room, the strange new chalk marks still fresh before him. He stared at the board, eyes narrowed, breath shallow. His mind, trained by decades of proofs and failure, struggled to reconcile what he saw. For years, the non-linear turbulent flow conjecture had mocked the brightest minds at Harvard and beyond. A problem born of fluid dynamics, it sought a generalized solution for chaotic flow patterns in 3 dimensions. Air, water, plasma. The problem reached deep into physics, yet mathematics could not tame it. Partial solutions existed. Dozens of failed papers had filled journals. Kendall himself had spent a decade chasing its tail. No one, not even the mathematical titans of Cambridge or Princeton, had cracked it. And now, these childish curves dared suggest a path. Kendall leaned closer. The new lines were unorthodox. They bypassed dense traditional formalisms, replacing them with geometric interpretations, swirls, nested curves, and startlingly clean parameter reductions. "Who in this department thinks like this?" he muttered. He reached for his phone and dialed. "Dr. Lewis," he said when his colleague answered, voice urgent, "I need you in Seminar 4. Now." Within minutes, Dr. Amanda Lewis, professor of applied mathematics, arrived, coat still buttoned, hair damp from the evening rain. "What is it, Charles?" she asked, setting down her bag. Wordlessly, Kendall gestured to the board. Amanda approached, brows raised. Her gaze scanned the new lines, then slowed, pupils widening. "My God," she whispered. Together they followed the steps, line after line. Where traditional approaches tangled into dead ends, this danced. It sidestepped known barriers with an intuition that seemed almost impossible. It can't be one of ours," Amanda said softly. "Who wrote this?" Kendall exhaled. "That's the problem. According to building logs and the cleaning staff, no one was scheduled in this room this afternoon. Security footage confirms it." Amanda turned sharply. "Then who?" Kendall pointed to the tiny scrawl at the bottom. B, age 9. Silence hung between them. Amanda's voice broke it. "A prank?" Kendall shook his head. "If it is, it's a masterful one. But I don't think so." He sank into a chair, rubbing his temples. "You know what this reminds me of?" he said at last. "Visual math. The kind you see in rare prodigies, or in those taught outside our system." Amanda frowned. "But a child? This level of insight? It's unheard of." Kendall nodded grimly. "And yet here it is." The next morning the department buzzed. Word spread fast. An anonymous figure, perhaps a child, had left a partial breakthrough on Harvard's most stubborn problem. Professors whispered in hallways. Graduate students crowded into Seminar 4, phones out, snapping pictures of the mysterious chalkwork. Some dismissed it as coincidence. Others, like Amanda and Kendall, knew better. By noon, Kendall convened an emergency session of the department's mathematical review board. This, he told them, is not about protecting egos. If this path holds, if even part of it is valid, we must acknowledge it. He paused. And we must find who wrote it. Meanwhile, in a small apartment above a laundromat, Benjamin sat cross-legged on a threadbare rug. The events of the previous day swirled in his mind. He had run until his legs burned, heart pounding, terrified he'd be caught. But now, a strange warmth bloomed inside him. He had seen the patterns, and they had answered. Emma entered, groceries in hand. "Benjamin," she smiled, "come help." As they unpacked, Emma spoke of news at the university. A mysterious child had solved part of a great equation, she said. The math building was in uproar. Benjamin looked up, eyes wide. Did she know? But Emma simply ruffled his hair. "Whoever it was," she said softly, "they must be very special." Benjamin lowered his gaze. No voice on paper. No name that mattered. And yet, for the first time since leaving the shores of Syria, he felt seen, if only in chalk. At Harvard, the review board worked deep into the night. Line by line, they tested the solution. Errors? None obvious. Originality? Astounding. Intuition? Off the charts. Professor Kendall leaned back, exhausted. "It's a viable pathway," he said at last. "One that may reshape our entire approach." Amanda looked around the room. "Then our next step is clear." She turned to the group. "We find B, whoever they are." And in the quiet of a child's room, beneath a faded blanket, Benjamin dreamed not of war, nor of loss, but of swirling numbers that danced like stars. The boy with no name had touched the heart of Harvard, and Harvard was now searching for him. The winter wind clawed at the stone walls of Harvard, rattling loose panes and whistling through narrow corridors. Inside the mathematics department, the mood was electric. A child had solved the unsolvable, a ghost with chalk for a voice, and the hunt was on. Professor Charles Kendall paced before the review board. "We have footage," he announced, exhaustion lining his face. Limited, but clear enough. He pressed a key. The projector hummed to life. Grainy black and white images filled the screen. An empty hallway, then. A small figure slipping through a side door. No ID badge. No escort. Coat too large, sleeves flapping. The child vanished into Seminar 4. Minutes passed. Then the boy emerged. Faster, head down, running. Kendall froze the frame. There he was. A boy, no older than 9. Pale, drawn. Eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. Amanda leaned forward. "Where was this entrance?" "The East Service Wing," Kendall replied. "Connected to the housekeeping and support access." She straightened. "Emma Clark works that shift." Kendall nodded. "I've already called her in." Half an hour later, Emma entered, coat dusted with snow. She looked nervous beneath the gaze of 10 professors. "Kendall," she whispered, "what's this about?" He gestured to the frozen image. "Do you know this boy?" Emma's breath caught. "Yes," she said softly. "That's Benjamin." "Benjamin who?" She swallowed. "No last name. He's, a refugee. I volunteer at the center. He came with me that day. I left him in the lounge." Her voice broke. "He must have wandered." The room buzzed. "Emma," Kendall said gently, "did you teach him any of this mathematics?" "No." She shook her head fiercely. But he draws numbers all the time, shapes. He's gifted, I think. Or something more. Amanda exchanged glances with Kendall. The air thickened. We need to meet him, Amanda said quietly. Emma hesitated. He's scared of attention, of authority. Please don't frighten him. Kendall's gaze softened. Then, perhaps, you can help us approach him. That evening, in the small apartment above the laundromat, Emma prepared tea. Benjamin sat curled in a chair, eyes on a battered notebook filled with spirals and symbols. Benjamin, Emma said gently, sitting beside him. Today, some friends of mine asked about a boy who drew beautiful things on a board at Harvard. Benjamin froze. His fingers gripped the paper. Emma touched his arm. They're not angry, she whispered. They're amazed. They want to understand. To meet you. Slowly, Benjamin looked up. Am I in trouble? Emma's throat tightened. No, sweetheart. You did something wonderful. He bit his lip. I saw the shapes. They spoke to me. Emma smiled through tears. Then maybe it's time to let them hear your voice. The next morning, Emma and Benjamin arrived quietly at the mathematics building. A small conference room had been prepared. No cameras, no crowd. Just Kendall, Amanda, and two kind-eyed colleagues. When Benjamin entered, chalk dust still clung faintly to his sleeves. Kendall knelt to meet him eye to eye. You must be Benjamin, he said softly. Benjamin nodded. I'm Charles. This is Amanda. We saw your beautiful work. Would you show us? If you like. For a moment, the boy trembled. Then Emma squeezed his hand. Benjamin stepped forward. The board loomed before him, wiped clean, awaiting. He took a piece of chalk. His small fingers gripped it firmly, and without a word, he began. What followed left hardened mathematicians breathless. Benjamin moved with a grace beyond training, curves flowing into functions, substitutions folding like origami. Where others saw barriers, he saw invitations. Amanda whispered, He thinks in dimensions we barely glimpse. When Benjamin paused, Kendall spoke, voice thick. Where did you learn this? Benjamin looked down. My father. He taught me stories of numbers. Before the sea. The room fell silent. Kendall swallowed hard. Benjamin, would you like to learn more? To come here and study? We would be honored. Benjamin's eyes widened. Am I allowed? He whispered. Amanda smiled through tears. Genius needs no permission, child. That night, beneath a Harvard sky dusted with stars, Benjamin walked beside Emma, a quiet smile on his face. For the first time since fleeing war, he felt something stir inside. Belonging. The following morning, the great lecture hall of Harvard's mathematics department stood bathed in cold winter light. Word had spread like wildfire. A 9-year-old refugee boy, unknown, untrained, had traced a path through one of the field's most stubborn problems. And now, the formal verification would begin. Professor Charles Kendall stood before the faculty assembly, heart heavy with wonder and caution. He knew academia, its pride, its skepticism. This would not be an easy gathering. Beside him sat Amanda Lewis, eyes watchful. Behind them, a panel of senior mathematicians, some curious, others visibly skeptical. At the far corner of the room, Benjamin waited silently, legs swinging above the floor, his oversized coat draped like a shield. Emma sat beside him, her hand a steady anchor. Kendall rose. "Colleagues," he began, voice steady. "Yesterday, we witnessed something extraordinary. Today, we ask your minds and hearts to remain open." He gestured gently. "Benjamin, if you would." Benjamin stood, chalk in hand. For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. The boy approached the board, massive, gleaming, the same as 2 days before. He hesitated. Then Emma's soft smile reached him. Benjamin drew the first line. At first, murmurs rippled through the room. The style was unlike anything the assembled scholars had seen, a fluid visual grammar of mathematics. Curves became transformations. Nested geometries unfolded into clean, simple expressions. Where graduate students had tangled for years, Benjamin's hands danced with a clarity born not of schooling, but of deep, intuitive understanding. Kendall watched the faces of his peers shift, from curiosity to disbelief to quiet awe. Amanda leaned forward. "He sees the flow," she whispered. "Not the numbers, the truth beneath them." An hour passed. Benjamin paused, looking to Kendall. "Finished?" Kendall asked softly. The boy nodded. Now the true test began. Senior Professor Adrian Sinclair, a towering figure in theoretical math, stood. "A remarkable display," he began, voice dry. "But intuition is not proof." He approached the board, marker in hand. For 30 tense minutes he dissected Benjamin's work, searching for flaws, gaps, errors. Each time the path held. Dr. Liu, expert in nonlinear systems, joined the verification. Equations were cross-checked, integrals retested. By noon, silence reigned. Finally, Sinclair turned, eyes unreadable. "This," he said slowly, "is an original and viable approach to the conjecture. Elegant and sound." A wave of stunned whispers filled the room. A child had succeeded where generations had stalled. Kendall stepped forward, voice thick. "We must ask ourselves, what do we do with such a gift?" Sinclair looked to Benjamin. "Where did you learn this?" he asked softly. Benjamin's voice barely rose. "My father taught me to see before the dark came." Emma's eyes brimmed. Sinclair nodded slowly, face softening. "Then he was a great teacher." Afterward, in the quiet of the corridor, Kendall knelt before Benjamin. "You have changed this place," he said, "and perhaps the world." Benjamin looked down. "Do I belong here?" Kendall smiled. "You belong wherever truth is sought, and truth shines in you." That night, as the stars wheeled over Harvard, a new chapter began. A child with no name on paper had stood before the giants of learning and earned his place among them. By dawn, the walls of Harvard could no longer contain the story. Someone had leaked it. A single photo, grainy but unmistakable, of a small boy standing before a towering chalkboard, covered in graceful, impossible math. The headline hit the academic world like a thunderclap. 9-year-old refugee solves Harvard's legendary equation. Within hours, the campus buzzed. Journalists swarmed the gates. News vans clogged the narrow streets of Cambridge. Headlines blazed across screens. Child genius or hoax? Who is Benjamin? Mathematical miracle at Harvard. Inside the math department, Professor Kendall watched the frenzy with mounting dread. "We must protect him," Amanda urged. He's a child, and no one knows the pressure this will bring. Kendall nodded grimly. I'll speak with Emma, and we must alert the university. At the laundromat apartment, Emma huddled over her phone, hands trembling. The story was everywhere. She looked to Benjamin, who sat quietly on the floor, tracing patterns in the carpet. Sweetheart, she whispered, kneeling beside him. People know now. They'll come asking, but you are safe here. Do you understand? Benjamin looked up, eyes wide. Am I in trouble? Emma's throat tightened. No, you are amazing. And now many will want to meet you, but we'll decide who, together. The boy nodded, though a shadow of fear crossed his face. Soon, the knock came. 2 university officials, polite but tense. We need to ensure the boy's safety, one said. And to clarify his legal status. Emma's heart pounded. Benjamin had no papers, no official record. A refugee child in legal limbo. Kendall arrived moments later, breathless. He stays under university protection, Kendall said firmly, and he is not to be paraded for the media. The officials hesitated. The pressure is mounting. Sponsors, donors, even federal attention. Kendall's voice rose. Then let Harvard show its humanity. Meanwhile, online speculation exploded. Some praised Benjamin as a symbol of hope. Others spewed vitriol, questioning his origins, his right to be at Harvard. An illegal child solving our problems? Outrageous. Why are we glorifying this? If he's so smart, why was he hiding? Emma shielded Benjamin from the worst of it, but the boy sensed the tension. Am I bad? He whispered one night. Emma pulled him close, voice breaking. No, my love, you are light in this world, and light draws both wonder and shadows. A turning point came when a renowned mathematician, Dr. Luis Mendoza, flew in from Stanford. At a closed session, he reviewed Benjamin's work line by line. After hours of scrutiny, he stood, voice ringing, This is no hoax, no fluke. This is the work of a rare mathematical mind, one the world must nurture. His endorsement shifted the tide. Public figures spoke out. Let this child be protected. Genius knows no borders. A petition began. Grant Benjamin legal status and academic protection. Tens of thousands signed within days. But the battle was far from over. Government inquiries loomed. Harvard's legal team scrambled. And through it all, Benjamin remained a quiet center in the storm, drawing spirals in notebooks, eyes distant. One night, as snow whispered against the window, Emma found him awake. Why do people hate? He asked softly. Emma gathered him close. Because they do not understand. But we will help them see. Benjamin leaned into her warmth. Will I get to stay? Emma kissed his brow. I promise you, we will fight for that. Together. And so, as winter deepened, the stage was set. A child once nameless now stood at the heart of a battle not just for a theorem, but for a future. One where genius might rise from any corner of the earth, and one where, perhaps, Benjamin would at last find a place to call home. By the second week, the tide of curiosity could no longer be contained. Public pressure mounted. Academics from around the world demanded transparency. If a 9-year-old had indeed touched the heart of mathematics, Harvard owed the world proof. Thus, a rare event was called, an open verification session, to be held in the Grand Lecture Hall. Professors, students, journalists, even government observers would attend. At its center, Benjamin. Emma sat beside him in a quiet waiting room before the session. She adjusted the collar of his clean sweater, fingers trembling. "You don't have to do this if you don't want to," she whispered. Benjamin looked up, wide-eyed but calm. "They want to see. I will show." Emma fought back tears. "You are so brave," she whispered. In the great hall, the crowd buzzed. Cameras lined the walls. News anchors murmured in rehearsed tones. At the front, the mathematical verification panel, 6 of the world's leading experts, waited behind a long oak table. Professor Kendall approached the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice steady, "today we witness not a performance but a demonstration of possibility, one that transcends borders, age, and expectation." He gestured. "Benjamin, when you are ready." A hush fell as the small boy stepped onto the stage. Against the towering board and vaulted ceilings, he seemed impossibly small. Yet his steps were sure. Benjamin took the chalk. The panel chair spoke gently. "Begin as you wish, child." What followed was nothing short of breathtaking. Benjamin moved with quiet purpose, his small hand tracing elegant arcs and precise substitutions. He paused often, as if listening to some inner melody. Each mark built upon the last, weaving a tapestry of clarity. Where veteran mathematicians had wrestled for decades, Benjamin's flow of logic seemed effortless. An hour passed. Members of the panel exchanged glances, first skeptical, then intrigued, then visibly astonished. Dr. Elena Kwan, expert in fluid dynamics, leaned forward, eyes shining. "He visualizes the flow," she whispered. "He sees it." Dr. Thomas Adler, a notorious skeptic, rose and approached the board. "Child," he said carefully, "why this transformation here?" He pointed to a critical step. Benjamin tilted his head. "Because the pattern breathes here," he said simply. "If you force it, it dies." Adler froze, then smiled faintly. "I see." By session's end, the panel convened briefly. The hall held its breath. Then the chair rose. "In this child's approach," he declared, voice resonant, "we find originality, validity, and a breakthrough pathway long thought unreachable." A wave of murmurs swept the crowd. The chair continued. "Benjamin's work stands, and today we acknowledge not only his gift, but the reminder that genius knows no pedigree." Applause erupted, tentative at first, then thunderous. In the wings, Emma wept openly. When Benjamin returned, she caught him in a fierce embrace. "You did it," she whispered. "You did it, my little star." Benjamin clung to her. "I am not invisible now?" Emma smiled through tears. "No, love. The whole world sees you now." That night, as snow fell softly over Harvard's ancient spires, a new kind of story unfolded. Not of conquest, not of fame, but of a child who, with no voice on paper, had spoken in the language of the universe and been heard. Snow dusted the steps of Harvard Yard the morning the announcement came. A formal statement, signed by the university president and the mathematical verification panel, was released to the world. "We confirm the validity of the breakthrough pathway demonstrated by Benjamin, a 9-year-old refugee child of extraordinary mathematical insight. His contribution stands among the most original approaches to nonlinear turbulent flow in recent history." Within hours, the news circled the globe. CNN, BBC, Reuters, mathematical journals, and tabloids alike. Harvard child prodigy shocks scientific world. Genius knows no borders. Refugee boy breaks math barrier. Who is Benjamin, the boy who saw what no one could? In the small apartment, Emma watched in growing alarm as Benjamin's face, captured in a grainy press photo, flashed across television screens. She knelt beside him. "Sweetheart, this may get loud. People will ask questions, but you don't have to speak unless you wish to." Benjamin looked at the screen, brow furrowed. "Will they be kind?" Emma's throat tightened. "Many will. Some may not understand, but I will be with you." The university, caught between celebration and caution, scheduled a controlled public reveal event. A moderated panel, no press barrage. Yet outside the lecture hall that day, crowds gathered, students, families, cameras flashing like stars. Inside, Benjamin sat in a small chair on stage, Emma beside him, a steadying hand on his shoulder. At the podium, Professor Kendall addressed the room. "Today, we honor a mind that reminds us why we seek knowledge, not for glory, but for truth. And truth can shine from the most unexpected places." When Kendall introduced Benjamin, the boy stood shyly. The applause was deafening. He glanced up at Emma, who nodded encouragingly. The panel chair leaned down. "Would you like to say anything, Benjamin?" The hall held its breath. The boy's voice was soft but clear. "I see numbers like stories. They are alive. My father taught me to listen to them. Now, I want to keep learning." A collective hush fell over the crowd, then a surge of applause, richer and more human than before. Outside the hall, the world reacted. Social media lit up. In tears watching Benjamin speak, the world must protect this child. No refugee child should be without hope. Genius is everywhere. From war to wonder, Benjamin is a light for us all. But not all was kind. Hateful voices emerged. America first, not refugee children. Is Harvard giving away honors now? Where are his papers? His parents? Emma shielded Benjamin as best she could, but even a child could sense the undertow. That night, beneath the glow of a single lamp, Benjamin sat curled beside Emma. "Why do some hate me?" he whispered. "I just wanted to draw." Emma hugged him close. "Because, love, some fear what they do not understand. But you must never dim your light." Benjamin looked up. "Will I be allowed to stay?" Emma kissed his brow. "We will fight for that. And you are not alone." Far across the Atlantic, in a refugee tracing office, an old volunteer read the headlines. He stared at the boy's face, then at a faded file on his desk. A Syrian teacher, a lost child, a last message. "My son, Benjamin, loves numbers." Tears welled in the old man's eyes. He picked up the phone. "Harvard, Department of Mathematics. Urgent information regarding Benjamin." The world had seen the boy. Now, his story was only beginning. The phone call came quietly, late at night, long after the public reveal had sent Harvard into a storm. Professor Kendall was reviewing papers when his office line rang. An unfamiliar voice spoke. I think I know this boy." The next morning, Kendall met with the man, an elderly volunteer from a European refugee tracing agency. Hands trembling, the old man produced a worn file. "It's from a Syrian teacher," he said. "His name was Youssef. He perished 2 years ago, but before the last camp evacuation, he left this." Inside, Faded pages. A photograph. A younger Benjamin, eyes bright. A handwritten note. My son, Benjamin, loves numbers. If he survives, help him find his place. Kendall's heart ached. This is gold, Amanda whispered when shown the file. But will it be enough? The battle for Benjamin's future had begun. Media pressure surged. Supporters launched campaigns. Let Benjamin stay. Genius has no borders. Yet opposition voices grew louder. Commentators frothed. Why reward illegal entry? This sets a dangerous precedent. Harvard should focus on citizens. Government officials began formal inquiries. Immigration lawyers warned, without papers, the boy is vulnerable. Harvard leadership convened emergency meetings. We must act, Kendall urged. If we fail him, we fail ourselves. Emma, weary but resolute, stood before the council. He is a child, and he is brilliant. Will Harvard be remembered for protecting that light, or snuffing it out? The room fell silent. Finally, the university's legal team committed. We will petition for special humanitarian status, and we will fight. For Benjamin, the storm raged unseen. He sensed the tension, the whispers, the guarded glances. One evening, he asked Emma, "Will they take me away?" Emma held him tight. "No, love. We are fighting for you, and you are not alone." The next weeks blurred into legal filings, media interviews, and mounting public rallies. At night, Harvard Yard glowed with candlelight vigils. Students, professors, families holding signs. Protect Benjamin. Let genius grow. Across the world, mathematicians voiced support. Dr. Luis Mendoza wrote, "In Benjamin, we see proof that the human mind transcends borders. Let no bureaucracy dim that spark." Then came a critical breakthrough. The Syrian file authenticated. A relative identified through international tracing, an uncle in Germany. The connection gave Harvard's lawyers a vital opening. With urgency, they filed a petition for special protected status, citing Benjamin's genius, verified identity, and extraordinary circumstances. But success was not guaranteed. The final hearing was set. Emma prepared Benjamin carefully. "You will speak only if you want," she said softly. "But remember, you are already enough." At the courthouse, Benjamin sat small among towering marble pillars. When asked if he wished to say anything, he stood, voice clear. "I have no papers, but I have numbers. They are my voice. I just want to stay and learn." Silence followed. Then the judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, leaned forward. "No child should have to prove their worth," she said, "and genius should never be lost to shadows." Her gavel fell. Special protected status granted. Immediate residency approved. Emma wept openly. Kendall squeezed Benjamin's shoulder, voice thick. "You did it, son. You are safe." That night, Harvard bells rang. In the apartment, Benjamin curled beneath his blanket, eyes wide. "Am I allowed to stay now?" he whispered. Emma kissed his forehead. "Yes, love. You have a home and a future." Outside, the snow whispered softly. A boy once nameless had claimed his place, not through birthright, but through the brilliance of his mind. The envelope arrived on a bright spring morning. Emma opened it with trembling hands, Harvard's administration seal embossed in gold. Inside, Certificate of Special Protected Status, Permanent Harvard Junior Scholar Enrollment. Name, Benjamin Youssef. Age, 9. Status, resident scholar, Harvard University. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She turned to Benjamin, who sat at the window tracing shapes on the fogged glass. "Sweetheart," she whispered, voice thick. "It's here. You are home." Benjamin looked up, eyes wide. "I have a name?" he asked softly. Emma knelt, arms around him. "Yes, love. Your name. Your place. Forever." News spread quickly through campus. Harvard students cheered. Professors smiled warmly. The boy who had once walked invisible now strolled through the yard, no longer a shadow. A special program was arranged: private tutoring in advanced mathematics, language and cultural classes, and a quiet study space, Benjamin's sanctuary. On his first official day as a Harvard junior scholar, Benjamin arrived wearing a small blue sweater Emma had knit herself. He clutched a new notebook, gifted by Kendall. On its first page, in careful script, "To Benjamin, may your numbers always sing. Charles Kendall." The weeks that followed were filled with wonder. Benjamin attended lectures, sitting quietly among towering minds, his small form barely visible behind great oak desks. At first, professors glanced nervously, but as Benjamin answered questions with startling clarity or drew elegant solutions, skepticism melted to admiration. "Prodigy," they whispered. "Once in a generation." Outside the lecture halls, Benjamin discovered joys he had long forgotten. In Harvard's gardens, he spent afternoons beneath blossoming trees, sketching spirals and curves as birds sang overhead. Emma often joined him, a book in hand. One afternoon, as sunlight dappled the grass, Benjamin looked up. "I feel warm here," he whispered. "Like I belong." Emma brushed a tear from her cheek. "You do, love. You always did." Friendships bloomed. Graduate students, once wary, now invited Benjamin to join informal math circles. They marveled at his visual intuition, and soon at his quiet kindness. One student, Lena, brought him a gift, a small origami swan. "For you, little genius," she smiled. "May your thoughts always fly." Benjamin held it as if it were treasure. But not all moments were light. Sometimes Benjamin awoke from tangled dreams, shadows of the sea, of loss. Emma would find him trembling. One night he whispered, "If Papa could see me now." Emma held him close. "He would be proud beyond words," she whispered, "and he would say, 'You are enough, just as you are.'" As spring deepened, Harvard prepared for its annual Festival of Light, a tradition celebrating knowledge and hope. This year, a special moment was planned. At twilight, beneath the great archway, Benjamin would light the ceremonial lamp, symbol of new voices in the halls of learning. The evening arrived. Crowds gathered, candles in hand. The yard shimmered with soft light. Emma stood nearby, heart full, as Benjamin stepped forward. Kendall placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You belong here, Benjamin," he said softly. "Now, light the way." Benjamin touched the flame to the great lamp. As golden light flared upward, the crowd erupted in cheers. Emma wept openly. Benjamin smiled, a smile that reached deep into the hearts of all who watched. Later that night, beneath stars now familiar, Benjamin sat beside Emma on their small balcony. He held the origami swan in one hand, Emma's fingers in the other. "I like it here," he whispered. "I want to stay. Always." Emma kissed his brow. "You will, love. This is your home, and your story is only beginning." In the quiet of that night, A child once nameless had found what all souls seek, a place to call home, and the freedom to let his light shine. A decade passed. Harvard's ancient stones had weathered many seasons, but one tradition remained unchanged. Each year, the university invited a guest speaker for its Festival of Light, someone whose story reminded all that knowledge must serve not pride, but hope. This year's name surprised none, yet touched all. Benjamin Youssef. Now 19, tall and slender, with thoughtful eyes that still seemed to listen to numbers beneath the noise of the world. In the weeks before the event, Benjamin prepared quietly. He still lived simply. A small apartment near Harvard Square, shelves overflowing with books and paper swans gifted long ago. Emma often visited, her hair silvered, her smile unchanged. One evening, as they sipped tea beneath the old balcony stars, she asked, "Are you nervous?" Benjamin smiled softly. "A little, but I will just tell the truth." Emma squeezed his hand. "Then you'll do beautifully." The night of the festival arrived. Harvard Yard shimmered with candles once more. Crowds gathered beneath the great archway, where a stage awaited. Benjamin stood behind the curtain, heart steady. Kendall, now retired but proud beyond words, approached and embraced him. "You've come far, son," he whispered, "and you've remained yourself. That matters most." Benjamin nodded, gratitude shining in his gaze. When his name was called, the applause was warm but not frenzied, a tribute of respect, not spectacle. Benjamin stepped into the light, slender in a simple dark suit, no fanfare. He stood for a long moment, eyes scanning the sea of faces, young and old, eager and weary. Then he spoke, voice calm and clear. "I came here with no name on paper, no country, no title, only numbers in my head and hope in my heart." A hush fell. There were days I thought being invisible would keep me safe. But I learned being seen is not a danger when those who see you do so with kindness. Emma wiped her eyes in the front row. Benjamin continued, "I do not stand here as a genius. I am still learning, always learning. But I know this. The mind is not limited by borders, nor age, nor what papers say. It is lit by curiosity and kept alive by compassion." He smiled gently. "So let us keep seeking. Let us keep welcoming. For somewhere out there, another child may be drawing shapes in the dust, and all they need is to be seen." The hall stood in silence, then rose in a wave of quiet, heartfelt applause. No cheering, no frenzy, only deep respect. Exactly as Benjamin would have wished. Later, beneath the familiar stars, Benjamin and Emma walked through the empty yard. "Was it enough?" he asked softly. Emma smiled through tears. "More than enough. You spoke to the heart, love. That is all the world needs." Benjamin looked upward. "Do you think Papa heard?" Emma kissed his brow. "Oh, yes," she whispered, "and he is proud beyond all measure." And so a boy once unseen had become a light, not to blind, but to guide, not seeking the heights of fame, but the quiet joy of a mind at peace, a heart open, from the dust to the stars, and always to home.